All right, so as you've seen, I've got measurements on the side of my table that tell me how long this is. I'm just going to pull off 9.5 feet. And now we're using Sunbrella Sea Mark material to keep this thing as waterproof as possible. I know that I like to use the Sunbrella Supreme a lot, but in this color it didn't come that way. So this is the Sea Mark with the extra acrylic backing on there. Just a side note, this acrylic backing over time likes to get mold spots and mildew spots on it, so it makes it visible. That's why they came out with the Sunbrella Supreme. So we'll draw 2 9.5 foot pieces. And now I'm curious to know if we have enough to do. We don't. I made a mistake in my estimation for doing the front bimini top, so I'm gonna have to call and order some more of this fabric. So. All right, I always take 1/4 inch transfer tape. This will help seal the needle holes up a little bit too, so that the center seam doesn't leak. All right, so again, we're using the 1/38 Tenera thread on this. This is a very expensive enclosure, so spend the money to buy this good thread, and this guy's never going to have any worries about it. So I'm taking about a 1/2 inch, and with Sea Mark, it's really heavy. All right, and this machine is not going to pull it through there by itself. So I always put one hand through the machine, and you just got to get the hang of driving it at the same speed that the machine is going, so you can prevent from puckering it up. And then flip one edge over so you've got consistent. Same thing here. You want to make sure you get your seam over, spread it apart, and then ran out of thread. All right, so this is a trick that you can only do if you have the felt in your table. So what I'll do is I'll take the seams, I pin it with a big heavy pin, then you can pull that out, line your pattern up, and stick that pin in too. So if you don't have a felt table, you can do that with either clamps or tape, taping it down. Just do it the best you can with it. So then I'll take the little stick pins. Okay. All right, let's start back here at the back. Obviously this fabric might be a little bit shorter than 60 inches, and then plus we lost 3/8 of an inch on both sides for a seam, so we're sticking out with our pattern a little bit on each side, which there again, that's still okay, all right, because like I said, that's just preference as far as how far that goes around there. On this front edge, I'm literally going to just pattern it. I'm not going to describe, I'm going to put hash marks right on our mark. So we'll cut our seam allowance on the outside of that. And we'll just leave the edges right where they are. So go ahead and follow me over here, Bill. All right, well, this is why it's called custom canvas. What I should have done, which I just didn't do, what I should have done was pattern our zipper tail first. And I'm in the middle of doing the filming. I got Nick here. Everybody's got me not thinking straight. So, well, what the hell am I going to do now? Because we need this pattern all the way back here in order to get that zipper tail out of this. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put my pin on the inside. Same thing here. This wouldn't be my preference on how to do this, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to fold this over. I'm going to mark our edges. And then I'm going to just put hash marks right on our red line. So that's going to be the actual cut line for the Bimini top. And then we'll put our cutoff mark there. So now on the outside, the entire Bimini top is scribed front and back. Now we got to do all of our marks. So I'm going to put in the zipper cut there, and then I'm going to jump up here. We'll put this zipper mark there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut my pattern. So remember, we're now on the outside. So we don't want a scribe line on the outside of this, but what we do need is just a little hash mark there, a hash mark there, and a hash mark there that we can transfer underneath. So do that on both of these. So we put a little mark there, mark there, little mark there. And we know that this is the 64 inches. And so double check. You got the main bow pattern, you got both of your center bows pattern, and we've got the actual cut pattern for the Bimini top back there. That would make this done. Okay, so I'm just going to jump right into doing what we should have done to begin with. Let me pull this down. Hang on. Okay, so this time what I'm going to do is I want that same cutoff line, and this time I'm going to scribe it on the black line for the zipper tail. And then same thing here, we'll just mark the bottom edge of that. All right, technically the patterning is done now, but I'm going to take my scribe tool and I'm going to set it at the 2.5 inches that we want, and then come inside . Okay, so for now, let's leave the excess there, but we can cut this off right where it goes. And we can come over here and cut the actual Bimini out. Here, let me get a close-up right here for me real quick, Bill. Let me show you something. This is why, if you can see, look at the distance of the fabric right here and the distance of the fabric here. That's why you can't cut this out. You cannot cut this out one time, fold it up 2.5 inches, pull it back 2.5 inches, and scribe those different things, because it turns out to be a different radius. You've got an inside radius and an outside radius. So you have to actually draw out your pieces, each individual piece. You can't repattern it going inside. And that's with everything. If you're making console covers that have different radiuses on them, you can't pattern it one after the other. All right, so those are junk, and here's our tail. So we can just get that out of the way for now. All right, so let's go to the front and start making the front pocket, and then we'll come back and address this. All right, so now we're on the main bow, or the aft side, and we put our hash marks all the way down there. I'm just going to cut somewhere between 3/8 of an inch and 1/2 of an inch of, seam allowance. And take your time with this cut, because this is the final outcome. All right, and we'll go ahead and walk through this, but you should have already seen the Bimini top course before you got to this point on doing this enclosure. But so we're going to pull this down right on top of it, and we're going to make sure that we leave ourselves at least about 3 inches down here to pull that 2.5 inch you know what? Let's see what we got here. I'm going to give myself a little bit. I think, you know what? Maybe this is good timing. Remember that the first pocket that we need is 5 inches. This is a problem. You know what? I'm going to roll this up. This C-mark material is sticky, and it likes to stick, so